Pull up the shades, open the blinds, let the bright sunlight go into your mind. You are God's child, there's nothing to hide. Open your heart to the love you denied. Light of God is holy peace, waiting to give you release. Unlock the door and open it wide. See with the Spirit, nothing inside. Hold up to the truth, all things that you feel. Whenever the light comes, the dark disappears. Light of God, there's holy peace, waiting to give you release. Love is a light that you are, radiant, gentle, home in your heart. Secrets of old are swept from your mind, as the light of holiness sparkles and shines. Light of God is holy peace, waiting to give you release. Light of God is holy peace, waiting to give you release.
Please join me in a breath. We breathe together with intention as part of our process of building church together, of gathering ourselves in, gathering our thoughts from where they've been in the past and where we send them into the future, trying to change what was or white knuckle what could be, drawing all of that thinking into just this moment so that we can be truly engaging of the generosity available in this moment, so that we can build church together, so that we can be connected even at a distance to this single focus as part of our spiritual journey that is much broader and much deeper than just an hour together on Sundays, and yet I hope is truly shaped by this time. And so I'm glad you're here. Part of this beginning each week is me kindling some sort of flame. It is a visual reminder, though less visually obvious sometimes on Zoom. It is a visual reminder that there is within us something eternal that we call the light. It is within us and around us, and it is that within which we move. And so a visual reminder so that we don't forget. A visual reminder so that we also remember that sometimes even when that light feels dimmed, there is a way we can rekindle it again. And this time together is one such way. It's one such way. Sometimes we rekindle that light by what we receive here, and sometimes we rekindle it by what we share. And I say this every week because it's important we remember. It's important we remember that's what we are about. Not only receiving, but giving, and that all of that is light enhancing, light encouraging, light kindling. And so I'm glad you're here for it. I'm glad you're here for it. As I was getting ready this morning and walking the dog early and all of that business, it was on my mind, the idea of routines. I think for many of us, this time of pandemic has shaken up our routines, because what we were doing before has been so greatly impacted over the course of the year. Early last summer, late in the spring, someone was talking to me about how they had started setting their alarm and getting up and showering and getting dressed and breakfasts every day because all of that had fallen away when they started working from home. They weren't really doing meetings, and so they weren't on a schedule, and so their routine had fallen away. And they realized that that was not good for them on the kind of mental, spiritual level. There was something harmful to their living in the loss of that routine, and so they just reinitiated it. And it struck me then that we, having adopted a dog a week into the pandemic, had also adopted a routine because Boss really was a mistake in naming. I'm just going to tell you because he's lived right into it. Boss immediately was like, this is the time we walk, and this is the time I eat, and this is the time I go outside. And so routine happened. I had to get up and get dressed every day, and I didn't realize what a blessing that was. I didn't realize what a blessing that was until someone reflected back to me how it had been hard for them to not have routine. And so this morning I was thinking about Sunday morning routine and how different my Sunday morning routine is. And I wonder what yours is, especially those who've made it a routine to be here more often than not on Sunday mornings. How different must it be for you now than it used to be? My Sunday morning routine used to start much earlier in the day because there was drive time and physical preparation of a space, and now I'm just like, I only have to manage this much space. And I wonder if maybe for you, there hasn't been reflection on that. What does that routine mean? And I wonder if it might benefit all of us to consider our Sunday routine moving forward as we approach that time when we will be in person again. Frank and I ordered food at a restaurant counter twice in the last week, first time and second time in the pandemic. We didn't stay and eat, we just brought it back home, but normally we order online. And afterward, we both were like, that was really hard. It was so hard to like talk to a person over a counter through our masks, through the plexiglass, like, oh my gosh. And that's part of what's been fueling this thinking of routine for me, is when we enter into that space again, for many of us, the idea of leaving the house on any morning, let alone Sunday morning, is going to be new, and it's going to take some work, right, to get all the steps in. And so I'm going to invite you to join me in just being intentional in these coming months about creating routine that prepares you for entering into personal engagement that you've been missing. Just getting to a place on time when it's not me just walking from the kitchen to this chair to get on Zoom, in and of itself is a whole thing. It is a whole thing. And so what does it mean for us to hold intention in that routine so that when we arrive in physical space with each other, again, in safety and security of knowing that it is good for us to be there, that we will be prepared to be present to the engagement and not lost in the holy cats. There are 43 new steps that I forgot about that I haven't had to do for so long. The routine in person on Sunday mornings at the church include this time we call first call to prayer. The meditation and prayer person gathers everybody who's come to church early, and we circle up, and most often are there prayer concerns you would like to be lifted up at this time. And then always there is a line in that person's prayer where those who are gathered are reminded that we've come together to prepare the space for church to be built. And there is a reminder that we are also prayerfully preparing the space. And so if you walked into church on a Sunday morning, you have been prayed for. May you find what you need. May you find what you need on that morning. Always shows up in the prayer in some way. And I also, within, pray, even if it's not in the out loud prayer, that you also find a way to share what you have brought as a gift to this community. Because if this light is to be kindled by what we share and receive, then we have to remember to come to share. We have to remember that sharing part of that engagement. And so this morning, as we check in, as we do our good morning, as we do on Zoom, in the chat and Facebook, in the comments, I would love for you to share what gift it is you bring to the family of the earth. Maybe it's specifically what you bring to Sunday morning. Maybe it's what you bring to other engagements. What is the gift that you so want to share with the family of the earth? And I will lead the way by saying I bring, of course I bring the message, and that is the result of hours and hours of study and listening and considering and writing and rewriting, so that there are a couple of thousands of words that I hope are at least useful at the very least. So I bring that to Sunday mornings. I also bring gratitude. I bring gratitude for this technology right now that we are able to gather in this way, and I bring gratitude that there are people who are willing to gather in this way. And so, thank you. Thank you for being willing. I know that a lot of us have Zoom fatigue, and it's a lift. And so share in that chat what you bring this morning that you would love to share with the world more readily. Share it in the comments on Facebook, what you would love to share with the world more readily. It can be as simple as gratitude and joy and excitement, and it can be as specific as I happen to have just seen Mary Vanoy's name. So I'll just tell you, like, a thing that Mary Vanoy brings to the family of the earth is death midwifery. And so being with those who are at that final days of living and moving intentionally into whatever comes next, right? What an amazing gift to bring. So as general or specific as you like, get in there. You know I love reading it. And so I hope you will be willing to share. As you continue to share in the chat, and I'm just trusting that it's happening on Facebook Live, and as always, if you're watching the Facebook video later, share in the comments, even though it's not at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Those comments are there and become part of the artifact of our asynchronous church building. So I hope that you will share that. As you continue to do so, I'm going to continue our practice of encouraging you to go to the Facebook page for the church to see what events are coming up, as well as being signed up for the email, because those are all listed there. We are at a regular suspects kind of time with the 2 book clubs that are rotating, with the Wisdom Circle, it's the 3rd Saturday of the month, Sunday morning services, Tuesday night touch point. It is my suspicion that you are emerging into the world as the weather changes a bit more, and the idea of more online content from the church is not very exciting. So I'm not putting our energies and my energies in that direction. I hope that my sense is correct. What is happening is there is a need for folks still who would like to join the rotation for mowing the lawn at the church. It's a pretty light lift. The lawnmower is there. It's electric. It propels itself. You only need to aim it. And so if you're interested in that, let me know. The best way is email darren.chittick@yahoo.com. Margie Ahern, it has again been willing to dive hands into the soil to take care of and update plantings. I do imagine she wouldn't mind some extra hands. I see her smiling face nodding. And so if you are interested in any part of that, you can send Margie a private message here today by clicking in the chat on that drop down, and her name should be right at the top because she's a co-host. And just let her know with your email address there, phone number, and she will reach out. It is a wonderful gift to the church and to all the neighbors passing by to see that beauty that's growing. So don't underestimate the impact of that. I see that David has shared, with any luck, the blades will be back on the mower by tomorrow afternoon. We will never ask you to mow with a lawnmower that doesn't have blades. That's just mean. That is just mean. One time my mother had my 80-something grandmother stirring gravy in the electric skillet, which tells you a lot about my growing up, for a very long time, not thickening because my mom had forgotten to turn it on. And we will not put you in that kind of Sisyphus situation. And so all of that we could use help with, just the outside of the building. And also I've just found out via email that on Thursday mornings, every Thursday morning of this month, we will get food from Society of St. Andrew. So that'll be picking up early and being at church with a handful of volunteers. And so if you're interested in that, again, email me and I'll let you know all the details. It's 9 o'clock. We're usually done by 9:30. We like to do a group photo. And it's all outside, everybody wears masks. It's a pretty easy and safe situation. The biggest challenge is convincing me to slow down. So if you can be part of that, I think everyone would appreciate it. I do everything like it's for time. Got to get the boxes off the truck. So thank you for everyone who's been already helping with that, and everyone will continue to help with that. And it sounds like what I've said is we need some help with things, but what I'm also saying is there are these kind of small golden opportunities to see some church family and some church friends that are safe and easy and that we can do in very small and controlled ways. And so if you have some time and would like to be part of that, reach out to me, hit up Margie today, and we will find our way forward. Let's take a breath. We will find our way forward. Let's find our way forward into the next portion of building church together today with music from Mark Proctor and then words of meditation and prayer from Jenny White.
This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. The Lord is present, and where He is holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present, and where He is holy. These are holy hands. God's given us holy hands. He works with His hands, so these hands are holy. These are holy hands. God's given us holy hands. He works with His hands, so these hands are holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For the Lord is present, where He is holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. The Lord is present, where He is holy. For the Lord is present, and where God is holy.
Good morning, friends. At the Church Within, we meditate to connect with Source, to clear the clutter of our minds, and remember, as is our inheritance, that we are one with the mind of God, capable of being love in every circumstance, and wise enough to bring the truth of that to our hearts. I invite you to relax into your chair, divert your attention. If it feels comfortable for you, close your eyes. Sink back into the comfortable, loving arms of the God of your understanding. Breathe. Move past the thoughts that arise, seeking comfort in the silence and the wisdom offered. As you continue to deep breathe in your own time and space, I offer some thoughts on routine and distraction. I am in a different space this morning, and my routine has been disrupted. In the midst of preparation to be with you all, I lost an earring, and I was frantic to find it in a space that was not mine. Amidst the clutter of things that I don't know what they are or why they're here, and the distraction of that singular focus took all of my attention. And I felt my heart racing, and I felt the cry of desperation, as this earring is special to me, but it could be replaced. And I searched and I searched. And moments before we opened this Zoom and Darren started welcoming us all in together, I found it. And the peace that rolled over my body through my soul was overwhelming. And so this story is not about an earring, but that is a symbol for me. And I knew that I needed to share with you, because perhaps we've all had that experience of searching, desperately searching for that thing, whatever it is. And when we finally find it, feeling the peace and the satisfaction and the joy, and touching that space within our hearts and soul, is what I hope I can impart to you this morning. To feel that within our body. Let the distractions and the desperation of finding the thing rush through us so that we can fully embrace the peace that comes when it is meant to. And sometimes when we just stop and breathe and remember that that peace is already within us, we can experience that in our bodies to calm our hearts and our minds from racing away to whatever it is, the thing that we were searching for. So when your routine is upset, or you've lost the thing that you think is of utmost importance, remember to stop and breathe and find that peace within your heart so that you can move forward onto the next thing and the next thing, knowing you have within you exactly what you need in the moment. Let's take a deep breath together in and out. Creator God, by all names we call you, we thank you this morning for bringing us distractions and allowing us to move through them so that we can know and get in touch with that sense of peace once they are removed. Thank you for giving us exactly what we need and the ability to touch into that space deep within us, even in the moments of most heightened excitement, because that peace is always within. May we simply remember to breathe it in and breathe it out and hold on to you and ourselves to center us in the moment so that we can move forward. Let's be. Amen. My friends, the church was founded on the power of prayer. If you have a prayer today, tomorrow, at any time, you can call on the prayer warriors of the church within to have your back. You can access them very easily by the link that's in the box, in the chat box, or on the website. It's very, very simple. And know that we are all here all the time, and you are never alone.
The forests of the northern highlands of Ethiopia were once lush and have been nearly eradicated. They have been destroyed so that there's more space for livestock to pasture, and then as a result of the livestock pasturing, they've receded even further. In response to this, there has been some ongoing work to preserve the forests that exist and to reforest the areas that have been turned to pasture in cooperation with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. I learned of all this in a short documentary film and accompanying very long essay through Emergence Magazine. Emergence Magazine is that digital publication from which I shared pretty recently the story of the atomic bonsai tree, if you were here that Sunday morning, with the help of Rosemary and Marcia and Eleanor. And so it's a wonderful source for these kinds of stories. What I learned is that in Ethiopian Orthodoxy, it is said that a church isn't a church unless it is surrounded by a forest. The land around the church should resemble, they say, the Garden of Eden. Nearly all of the 3% of forests remaining, 3% of the forests remain in what once was a lush forested area. Nearly all of it is around these forest churches. You walk through this small bit of forest, you find a stone wall encircling a round church. The notion has been that you enter the most sacred ground as you walk through the opening in that wall. That is the demarcation, and only the priests enter the building itself, the holiest of holies. Dr. Alemeyahu Vasi is an Ethiopian forester, and he is the one who began this work to preserve the old growth forests still standing, small areas surrounding the nearly 20,000 forest churches in the region as an effort to reforest the area. The essay is written by by someone called Bonson, who is sharing of their time in Ethiopia with Vasi, and tells of a particular visit to a particular forest church. And I want to share with you that portion of the essay. And as I get to the part where he's describing the space, I encourage you to let your eyes close if that feels comfortable, and to imagine in your mind's eye this physical space he's describing. He writes, "Our Western conceptions of belief are almost entirely inward and private. Here, and at other points on my journey into these forests, I was witnessing the performance of a mystical geography, the soul's journey to God made visible in the landscape. Churches in the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition inherited many of their ideas of sacred space from Judaism. The center of their church, like the metaphorical center of the Jewish temple, is called the Holy of Holies. In that center rests a replica of the biblical Ark of the Covenant, another borrowed symbol. Only priests can enter the Holy of Holies. Enclosing this sacred center is a larger circle where people receive communion. And outside that lies a still larger circle, the chanting place. All three spheres are contained under the round church roof, but these circles ripple outside the church itself. Beyond the church building lies the inner wall, which forms a circular courtyard around the church. According to tradition, the proper distance this wall should stand from the church is the arm span of 40 angels. During my visits to different churches, I watched many people enter these inner courtyards. Before crossing the threshold, they performed various gestures of piety, crossing themselves 3 times, dipping a knee, perhaps kissing the wooden door frame. It was clear to everyone that when you crossed the inner wall, you were entering holy ground. The brilliant move the priests made was to take the idea of the inner wall and replicate it. Using the same design, they built a second wall of dry stacked stone just outside the forest boundary, thereby extending the invisible web of sanctity to include the entire forest. Suddenly, the holy ground surrounding the church expanded from the size of a backyard to a vast tract of 10, 50, or even several hundred hectares. Once the outer wall of this particular forest church was complete, people could no longer cut trees along the perimeter, nor could cattle trample or browse young seedlings. Every tree, animal, and hermit was now sheltered under the church's protection. Let us take a breath together. Let us offer gratitude for this work having happened and for this work continuing to unfold. There is no doubt that the reforesting of this region is impacting the entire planet. It's impacting us. May our gratitude serve as a blessing, an added energy of care and love for the work and the workers, the land and the life now thriving on the land. May it also offer blessing and caring energy for the potential life still awakening in response to this act of love, the building of not a wall to keep out, but a wall to expand the love and acknowledgement of this holy ground. Imagine what it would be like to live in a way that mirrors this reforestation project. Imagine what it would be like to expand loving kindness, much in the way those priests expanded the forest by expanding the encircled area marked as sacred. Imagine what it is in your daily life that is made known to you through the metaphor of this outer stone wall. One that says you're entering holy ground. Safe space, refuge, brave space for the practice of living. There's a practice in Buddhism called Lojong. You may not be familiar with the word. You are, I would imagine, many of you at least, familiar with some aspect of the practice because it is the practice of Pema Chodron. And many of us have engaged her work. Many of her teachings are from the practice itself. All of her teachings, I feel safe in saying, are deeply informed by the practice. So if you're familiar with Pema Chodron at all, you've brushed elbows with it at least. Of Lojong, Chodron writes, the basic notion is that we can make friends with what we reject, what we see as bad in ourselves and in other people. At the same time, we can learn to be generous with what we cherish, what we see as good. If we begin to live in this way, something in us that may have been buried for a long time begins to ripen. Traditionally, she writes, this something is called bodhicitta, or awakened heart. It's something that we already have but have usually not yet discovered. Hear that again. It is something you already have, even if you have not discovered it, or if you discovered it and forgot. She goes on, it is as if we were poor, homeless, hungry, and cold, and although we didn't know it, right under the ground where we always slept was a pot of gold. That gold, she writes, is bodhicitta. It is the awakened heart. Our confusion and misery come not from knowing that our confusion and misery come from not knowing that the gold is right here. They come from always looking somewhere else. Confusion and misery always come from our constant need to look elsewhere for the pot of gold that is right here. She writes, when we talk about joy, enlightenment, waking up, or awakening the heart, all that means is that we know the gold is right here, and we realize that it's been here all along. This teaching, she tells us, is mind training. The collection of teachings offer pithy reminders on how to awaken our hearts in the midst of day-to-day life under any circumstance. She has written a book that compiles the 59 sayings. If you hear me talk about Buddhism often, you know that one of my favorite things is the lists and the lists of lists. And so there is a list of 59 slogans that come from a classical Tibetan text, and she has all of those and then commentary on them. By way of introduction, she writes, when I first read these slogans, I was struck by their unusual message. We can use everything we encounter in our lives, pleasant or painful, to awaken genuine, uncontrived compassion. Let's take a breath. We can use everything we encounter in our lives, pleasant or painful, to awaken genuine, uncontrived compassion. It's so irritating. It's an incredible doorway to hope, and it is so irritating. Dear Pema, no thank you. Genuine, uncontrived compassion is akin to expanding our outer wall until all of life can find refuge within our heart space, as life can find refuge within the forest churches of Ethiopia. This is a rather grandiose statement, and the problem with such grandiosity is that it is seemingly unattainable, and because it seems unattainable, we often decide that we needn't even try. It's too exhausting to consider. Today, perhaps you might let that wall expand to a large enough circumference that all of you can fit inside. Perhaps you'll allow that wall of your uncontrived compassion, your genuine loving kindness to expand large enough that all of you fits inside, safe and held within your own compassion. I want to remind you of a practice I've presented before from Pema Chodron, one that is part of the Lojong teachings. It's called Tonglen. It's called Tonglen, and that means sending and taking. So I'm just going to share a few of the slogans from this book. The book, in case I forgot to say, is just called the Compassion Book. Slogan number 10 of the 59 reads, begin the sequence of sending and taking within yourself. Her commentary is, whatever pain you feel, take it in, wishing for all beings to be free of it. Whatever pleasure you feel, send it out to others. In this way, our personal problems and delights become a stepping stone for understanding. They allow us to understand the suffering and happiness of all beings. At the very end of Jenny's meditation, you are never alone. You are never alone. We become so self-referential in our own suffering and our own delight that we forget that we're not unique. We're not the only ones. We're not alone in that suffering. We're not alone in that delighting. So this first step of sending and receiving is simply when we're having suffering, when we're experiencing dissatisfaction, instead of simply trying to solve it or escape it, noticing, acknowledging, praying, may all sentient beings be relieved from this suffering, from this dissatisfaction. And when something wonderful is happening, or something just okay, right? I suspect you've had a day where just okay would have been the most wonderful thing you could find. Likewise, instead of saying self-referential, we take that moment to acknowledge this is happening. May all beings have this positive experience in life more and more. May there be more sweetness for them. That's number 10 of the slogans. Number 11 reads, when the world is filled with evil, transform all mishaps into the path of awakening, which she writes as Bodhi. The commentary, whatever problems occur in your life, instead of reacting to them in the usual habitual way, you could transform them into the path of the awakened heart, the Bodhi heart. That is to say, you could awaken your compassionate and open heart. Use the sending and receiving approach and breathe in the pain of the situation, wishing that all beings could be free of it, then breathe out and send loving kindness to all suffering beings, including yourself. Let's take that breath right now. These two slogans alone are quite an undertaking. Quite an undertaking. They're a strong practice for decentering ourselves in the midst of it all. That pain we are having, others are having it, or have had it, or will have it. May it be relieved in them. May it be relieved for you. May it be relieved for all of us. That joy you are experiencing or have experienced or will experience, that is the joy others want as well. May they have it. May joy be increased for them and for you. That simple step expands the wall, demarcating the holy ground upon which we walk every time we enact it. Every time we enact that practice. I want to tell you two more of the 59 slogans, hoping they will support you in preparing for the new beginning that we are all moving toward. Did you forget? Did you forget? We are bringing our attention together toward the preparation of our intentional return to each other. Small things like establishing a new routine. We have time. We have time, and I will continue to remind you what a mistake it would be to treat this time, the time between now and when we finally are in each other's physical presence, as if they were the end of a race. They are not. They are simply the exercise to prepare us to begin what's next. We are better served by taking a solid look at where we've been, where we're headed, so that we can understand where we are right now. This practice, reminding ourselves that we are not suffering alone, nor should we experience joyfulness alone, brings our attention to the reality that everyone we are looking forward to seeing again will have lived through all of this as well. Their experience will be theirs alone, and we must be ready to meet them where they are, and as we truly are. What a tragedy it would be to show up trying to simply pick up where we left off a year ago. While everyone's experience is theirs alone, there is such overlap, and we aren't in it alone. This loneliness, this angst, this languishing, this exhaustion, this craving, this isolation, I greet it all. I greet it all because whether or not I do, it is still here. May all beings be relieved of this suffering and all suffering, this excitement and anticipation and wonder, this fresh breath of air, the warmth, this inkling of joy re-emerging. I greet it all. I greet it all because it is here. It is here whether I greet it or not. May all beings have more and more and more of this. Slogan 39. All activities should be done with one intention. All activities should be done with one intention. The commentary. Whatever you are doing, take the attitude of wanting it directly or indirectly to benefit others. Take the attitude of wanting it to increase your experience of kinship with your fellow beings. Those are Pema Chodron's words. Take the attitude of wanting it to increase your experience of kinship with your fellow beings, wanting to directly or indirectly benefit others. And the last slogan I want to share is slogan 29. Abandon any hope of fruition. I can't not nearly laugh when I say it. When I read it, I laughed out loud because it's the most Pema Chodron thing in the world. Abandon any hope of fruition. And then she writes, the key instruction is to stay in the present. Don't get caught up in hopes of what you'll achieve and how good your situation will be someday in the future. What you do right now is what matters most. A lost earring in the midst of an already shaken routine invited Jenny White this morning to come back into the moment fully. Right? Very fast turnaround time. Very fast turnaround time. What a gift to have shared it with us. Hope of fruition. Hope of fruition is a distraction. When we become obsessed with it, when we sacrifice the present moment for it. Rushing toward a finish line wastes this moment. Thinking only of what will come wastes it in equal measure. Calling ourselves back to the presence, back to presence with what is happening just now, sending and receiving, or simply being present if we don't have that in us in the moment. We are opening that pot of gold that has been here all along. Do you sense that? When we become present in this way, letting all else fall away, even that which we know we'll have to pick up again, we open that pot of gold and we experience the awakened heart. And as our hearts awaken, our compassion arises as an inescapable emergent property. The stone wall that encircled our closed heart is moved, and we become a refuge for ourselves and for others. It's no longer a stone wall protecting our love. It is a stone wall that expands it. It expands that holy ground. It allows more to happen within our compassionate being. It doesn't mean that some of what we hold in that space isn't difficult. It doesn't mean that we must approach with solutions every person who appears with refuge. It simply means we hold space. And if we don't know how to help, we hold space for someone who does. If we don't know how to be of service, we hold space, because there are now in our expanded holy ground, in the expanded refuge of our awakened heart, there are others with whom we have gathered. We aren't isolated in the midst of that circle. We become community. We become able to be in common union in that space. And suddenly, any idea that we were ever alone falls away. And we just exist together. And in that space, just here, just now, a simple bowl of beans and rice become a feast. Here, just now, a single acorn is also a towering oak. Here, just now, just here, we recognize just how much more than ourselves we have always been. We recognize just how much more than ourselves we have always been, and we find the true richness that comes in recognizing who each other has always been on this walk together home. Everyone, no one left out. So it is. Amen.
Remember me gentle, remember me kind, remember the sweet warmth of your hand and mine. Remember me doing the best I could do, remember me feeling how much I love you. Get my patience, words that could hurt. Give me my blindness, no seeing your worth. My mistakes have been many, but they're not hard. Goodness and blessings, joy in our lives. Remember the laughter, smiles that we shared. Remember that always within me I care. Remember me thinking how precious you are. Remember me holding you safe in my heart. Forget the distance or years. Spirits are raised us, love brings us here. Share what our souls know, never been true.
In just a moment, we will have the offering prayer that I hope you will say right out loud into the space that you are inhabiting, and then we will sing together the closing song, and I hope you will sing it right out loud into the space you are inhabiting, and then we'll have the closing prayer, and I hope you'll say those words right out loud into the space you are inhabiting. Doing so together, we enter into the chanting space of our little urban forest church, if you will. I'm glad for our bringing that energy into the world. And as we get ready, one of the things that I think about often around the offering prayer time is the way that we work as community through generosity. And I sometimes just have to have permission to tell you things, and sometimes I get it belatedly, but today I have it leading in. So one of the things that many of you know is that we've shifted the way that Thursday morning food pickup and delivery works, because for a long time we were living in the limitation of how much my pickup truck could carry, and then the alternator went out, and then all of a sudden I was like, U-Hauls come in all sizes, so we can provide more food for the community. The U-Haul runs around $60 a week. So far, some angel here and there makes a donation that covers that so that it's not coming direct from our funds. I paid for the first one out of pocket, and then a friend was like, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Possibly." And she reimbursed me for that. And so I immediately got a message from Rosemary this morning saying, "Do you have a U-Haul sponsor?" And I said, "Not yet." And she said, "I will cover 2. And you may share that as part of the invitation. So if there's anyone who wants to cover the other 2, it's about $60, and just allows us to double the number of people who we are serving with those food boxes. And the food boxes, I just presume you all know what I'm talking about. The food boxes have some kind of protein, like real food protein, like chicken or eggs or something of that sort. And they have some mix of dairy, usually some yogurt and some milk. And then always I was about to say eggs. There's never been eggs on it. The eggs are always already cooked, so those might be in there. And then a bag of mixed fresh produce, vegetables, and fruit. And they're about 30 pounds of groceries. All right, so it's just a really nice collection of groceries. And it's been a great thing to share with the community, and the pantry folks are always so glad to have them on Thursdays because it lightens the load of everything they have to do to have those already packed and ready to go. So if you want to do that, you can reach out to me via email. Again, it's just darren.chittick@yahoo.com. And I'll be back on email on Tuesday, and we'll talk about the arrangements. I appreciate all of you helping to make light lifting of what could otherwise be a heavy load. So let's take a breath. And let us move into the offering prayer and all that will follow. Creator God, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
All people are holy, many paths from God. All people are holy, with love be real. No matter who you are, no matter where you've been, let's gather together and let the Spirit. All people are holy, many paths from God. All people are holy, only love is real. Only love is real.
May the peace of God go before us into this glorious week, and may the peace remain wherever we have walked. peace above us and below us, peace to the right and to the left, peace within and without, peace in the face of everyone we meet, peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen. Thank you to everyone who's gathered this morning. So in a moment, of course, I will start the breakout rooms here in Zoom. If you are going to stay for that, or if you aren't planning on it but will, that would be amazing. It's a wonderful time to just engage the folks in a brief time of just chat and socializing and catching up and maybe meeting someone for the first time. It can also be about talking about something we have considered this morning, like what is the first thing that you were reminded in that practice of Tonglen, that like, oh yeah, I forget the things that we are sharing, and that lifts the load for me. And so I will prepare those breakout rooms in just a moment. For those who have joined from Facebook Live, thank you so much. Blessings on your week. I'm going to end the live stream. Appreciate you being here via that platform.